Hi, everyone, and welcome to our AI podcast series. Today is our fourth episode, and it's the fourth of five free episodes. And then once we get to the second half, we're going to put them behind the member walls, so it's sort of a member benefit. But like I do every week, I like to let my co-host introduce yourself. So go ahead, Laura Catherine. Tell everybody who you are and what we're going to be talking about today.
Laura Catherine here. I am the National Dean for the College of Health Sciences at DeVry University, and I have 25 plus ish years experience working in the healthcare industry. And today we are going to talk about improving patient communications using the WhatsApp for Business.
Excellent. And I'll tell everyone who I am. My name is Joe Daraskovich. I work for various medical associations and societies across the state of Florida, some national, some county level, some statewide. And this podcast series is sort of a way to give something to our members that can kind of be an extra little member benefit where, these will be some tools that will help people streamline their practice, make things a little bit easier, make things better for them, make things better for your patients and everybody involved. If you kind of take what we're telling you and put it to use. So, like my co-host said here, today's topic is WhatsApp. So you got to be careful. Say WhatsApp. So it's not what's up. It's not what up. It's WhatsApp. So just kick it off right now, Laura Catherine. Tell people a little bit about WhatsApp.
So WhatsApp for Business actually is a free, easy to use platform that you can use to improve your communication between healthcare providers and your patients, right? This tool can help you streamline common tasks like appointment scheduling, prescription refills, and answering patient questions. Using an app like this can save you valuable time for both your busy providers and then also allow everyone to kind of have more of a focus on patient care. So it's more of a modern, mobile friendly interface that's a natural fit for the way that we prefer digital communications. It's very similar to anything else. And it provides multimedia content like images and documents and videos that you can share to provide out important health information, important reminders. So, in a nutshell, WhatsApp for Business is really a powerful solution that you can enhance those provider to patient interactions and improve your patient experience overall.
Well, and I'm glad you said the whole name of it. So, is there a difference between WhatsApp and WhatsApp for Business? Are these two different platforms we're talking about, or is it all just lumped into the same thing?
I mean, the functionality is very similar. WhatsApp for Business has more of a business feel. It's more of a professional feel. It's less casual. WhatsApp is more the casual instant messenger kind of thing, like we've seen with Instant Messenger, AO Instant Messenger, Teams messaging, Slack, all of those kind of things. Like for example, my church uses WhatsApp to be able to update all of us and communicate all of us in one platform in a group setting, right? For us to be able to keep up to date with what's going on with the church. But the WhatsApp for Business the free version specifically is really geared towards more of that instantaneous response from that professional look and feel, create some consistency, create some boundaries around what those communications are.
I'm glad we made that distinction because I used WhatsApp a few years ago. I went to Ireland for a golf trip and everything, and I'm not going to name the provider, but my cell phone company didn't let me text or call from overseas. So the only way I could talk to my wife, and I didn't have any kids at the time, but anyway, it was like that was my only landline to the United States of America. So let's dive right in. WhatsApp for Business. Let's talk automatic greetings and greeting messages. Let's talk about that a little bit.
So the automatic greeting messaging feature is one where you can provide personalized welcome messages to your patients, even when your office is closed, right? Many physicians' offices may close early on Thursday. I know dental offices are closed completely on Fridays. So, it just depends upon, those kinds of things. But those customized greetings can really reflect your practice's unique voice and your brand. It creates a really positive first impression. So there's instant acknowledgement through those automated messages. They can boost patient satisfaction because they can get prompt inquiries. A lot of times, those automatic messages can free up your staff time so they can focus on something else instead of trying, oh, remember, we got to get this out. You can measure them, you can time them, you can have them set up as automation. And it creates kind of that valued feeling and the attentiveness of the 24/7 environment, which we are all used to now in our digital space.
Well, and this is a good point for me to remind everyone wherever you're watching this, whether it's or listening, whether it's on the county medical society that you belong to. We also provide show notes for each episode. So if we're talking a little bit quick and you kind of forget about it, that link to the show notes is usually right there on the website that you're listening to. So that's very helpful with something like this that you might not be familiar with. So let's move on and talk a little bit more about quick replies for some common questions. You talked about kind of freeing up staff time and things like that. You don't want your staff, saying yes or no to every single little, thing that people are talking about. So let's dig into that a little bit more. How's this going to free up some time for people?
Well, that's a great thing, and the show notes have images attached to them, so you can see what you're getting, so you can get a feel for how it looks too. So that's great too. So quick replies are really those pre-written messages that can be set up with just a few taps, right? Really time saving there, and they're usually more along the lines of common questions. They can help provide that consistent, professional response and ensure that your customers are getting the information they need pretty quickly. So some examples of it would be your office hours, right? They can click on there and where it says office hours, it says we're open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday from 9 to 12. Let us know if you need anything else. For appointment scheduling, it could be to schedule an appointment. Please provide your preferred time and date, and then we'll check for your availability. So these things can also tie into your patient portal as well. For information, right? They could even say for health information, we accept most major insurance plans. Please send a photo of your card and I'll take a look. So using these pre-written responses to kind of help respond efficiently while providing more of a personalized service really gives your patients and their caregivers kind of a quick turnaround time to some of those things that are just the most common, and it keeps them from having to call the office, have a front desk person answer the phone, navigate through the social cues you need to be very warm and welcoming on the phone, and then get into the meat and potatoes of what the patient's really looking for. This saves some of that time to where then if they do call the office, it's really more value added because it's the deeper conversations that are not handled over something like this.
Yeah, and that's great. And you and me, we like talking, we like chatting with people, but some of the people I work with, some of my friends even, they don't love that personal interaction. So it's like if they can get something just real quick, automatic reply, "Oh, cool, you guys are closed on Fridays. I won't consider, opening up my calendar book and looking into that." But then once you get in touch with the person, you're really diving into something important, and you're able to, use that time valuably and not waste time doing things that aren't quite as big, I guess. And then you're saving everybody's time at the same time. All right, let's move on and talk a little bit about business profiles with your practice information. Is that what we talked about? Any more things to talk about with that?
I think when we talk about just the flow of these things, the really important first impression, especially in a digital space, is what your profile looks like. So, an image on these particular slides can show the complete practice profile. It displays key details like the address, the website, the services they provide, because some of our practices that you engage with as a patient are a little bit more a la carte than they are just a singular focus, right? So, when it comes into designing this is where you provide that essential information that your patients need to know about your practice. Like, what are those hours? What are the treatments and the specialties that you prefer? Who are the providers? It's a great way to announce you have a new provider, right? So, having information like this readily available in that professional looking digital profile makes it easy for your patients to access your information. It also is a way for them to do it in times that you're not available. Because one of the things that happens, you think, oh, I need to call my doctor, and you're sitting at dinner and you're talking to your spouse, and now is the time to do it while it's fresh in your mind versus trying to make yourself a note to do it tomorrow, right? So having these kind of things and showcasing those key details really can help not only provide instant access at 24/7 that we're used to now in the digital age, but also it helps build trust and credibility because your patients can see that finding information about your practice is easy to find, it's easy to connect, and then it's a clean branded design that is very similar to the image you present when they walk in the door.
Well, and that's a great point too. That I'm sure some of the people listening to this are, for some large practices that, they have their whole marketing teams like that. But some of these people are, some of the doctors and practice managers are with some smaller organizations, and this stuff looks pretty professional. And it's, you kind of can sit there and say like, oh my gosh, I don't have the funds to hire an outside source to come in and make my things look as professional as possible. This is an easy way to do that, right? I mean, it's not brain surgery that some people might be doing brain surgery, but this is an easy way to make your practice look very professional.
Absolutely. And again, that's the thing, right? The whole point of this podcast series is to be able to use free applications to make your job much easier, to work smarter, not harder. And for smaller practices, one doctor practices, one, two doctor practices with very tight, constrained teams, finding ways to make these things happen puts you on the same playing field, at least from a professional branding and an image perspective, as the larger practices that have full marketing teams to do it.
Right. So it's, it's kind of a good little advantage for the small fish out there. All right, let's talk about labels for organizing patient conversations. Obviously, there's a lot of patient conversations going on there. How do you kind of keep those organized with WhatsApp for business?
So one of the things that's, just like anything else we have, we kind of like to have things organized, right? And in this case, in the WhatsApp for Business, they do it by labels of your patient conversations. So labels can be like, I'm a new patient, I need a follow-up, I need an urgent case, I need a prior authorization. So what are the types of communication mechanisms that you want to be able to leverage this digital platform to take care of, right? New patients or those first-time inquiries that require more comprehensive information, having more built into the scripting to be able to do that. Follow patients just need a post-op appointment. Those communications can be tracked as well. And then those urgent cases, acute care situations that, literally I broke my foot and it's sitting backwards. Those are the kind of things that you're like, you probably need to go to the ER, or call 911. So kind of building that in. And so it also gives you the opportunity to be able to really label this in a way that makes sense. And then when you're pulling data out to see usage, to see the value, to see where you might find that patients are tripping in the process. It's a great way for you to be able to capture that and make adjustments as needed.
Yeah, you definitely don't want those urgent cases to kind of get lost in the shuffle of, hey, this person's wondering what the office hours are. This person's in excruciating pain. It's, not really apples to apples that you want to make sure you're keeping track of those as best you can. So this is a great way to do that. That's really a really cool feature. All right, let's move on, and we're doing a great job of keeping it quick today. If we're moving fast, again, I got to remind everybody about the show notes. You can dig in. You can always go back and listen to this multiple times if you need to, but we try to keep these as short as possible so you're not spending your whole day listening. So moving right along, next topic that we're going to talk about: broadcast lists for announcements. Let's dig into that a little bit.
Probably the most valuable, besides the basic premise of who are we, where are we, what time are we open, and how do we get in touch with you, is kind of like that announcement page. If you think about it, right? They used to have announcements over the intercom, things like that. So how do we do that? So broadcast lists are the best way to do that in this particular form. It's where you share those important updates and information to your patients. You can efficiently communicate things like new holiday hours, right? New services, staff changes, new doctors, a doctor retiring, those kind of things. You can use those also to send seasonal health tips and preventative care reminders, which is fantastic in a lot of different situations. And they're also a great way for you to send appointment reminders to reduce no-shows, which is always a benefit to a practice, right? So keep in mind that broadcast lists or broadcast announcements are really concise, and they're very focused on a specific piece of relevant information for your patients. You can send them out broadcastingly, right? Against to all of your patient population who's involved in the app. And then you can also do it very targeted to specific patient groups depending upon how you set it up. So these types of communications are read, and then most of the time it's a one directional conversation, so you're just letting them know. But there are some other kinds, depending upon how deep you want to go into the layers, where you can actually tie it to an action step. Like, here's a reminder that you need to come in and have your A1C checked. Click on this link to go set up your appointment. So there's ways that you can kind of partner these things together with both the announcements and the action steps to follow through.
All right, I'm telling you, this is one that other than that trip to Europe that I didn't know what I didn't know much about, but I'm excited. This is one that yeah, maybe it's because I didn't know that much about this app, but it's like this has got everything that you basically need to kind of make everything run smoothly. Let's talk about implementation. Obviously you're hearing all these great bells and whistles. How does someone start from the beginning and get this going? So they're actually utilizing it.
Well, I would agree. This is probably one of the more easy used tools that you can do to enhance your patient communication and practice efficacy, right? And the efficiency of what you're doing. So the first step is to download the app from your device's app store. So it can be on any kind of an app. A lot of times people, because iPads consider things and use them as apps, a lot of times they'll use it as an iPad. So it's a little bigger for you for setup, but it's pretty quick and straightforward. It asks you some basic information. You'll set up your profile, you'll add your logo, your contact details, any other relevant information you want them to have out there. And then you start configuring the app, right? What are creating those greeting messages, creating those quick replies, labeling the streams that are the common interactions that you're going to see your patients using this for. And then finally, train your staff on how to use it efficiently. And then making sure you've got a smooth rollout, always check to make sure that this is actually giving you the bang for the buck that you want. And then kind of test it out. Is everything going to work the first time? No, because you're new and you're trying this out. Do you want to do it in a smaller population? Yes. And there's an adoption phase too, where not only do your staff and your internal stakeholders, we like to call them inside your office, need to get used to using this tool, but then also your patient population. There are segments of this population they're going to adopt early, and there are segments of the population who are never going to adopt. And then finding the happy medium ground, because that can also help influence what do you set up in here, right? If you're going to set up stuff that are to your long-standing patients who have been there for 30 years, they're not going to want to change their communication pattern because they're used to what you already do. Now, anybody who's new coming in the door, who's in the bandwidth of 18 to 40, this is great because this fits every part of the aspect of digital life that they're already used to.
Yeah, this is going to be, and you're right. You don't want to leave any patients behind or anything like that. But new patients and young patients, everyone's going to really appreciate the tools that you have at your disposal. All right, we're going to wrap this up. This has been a great episode, but let's just talk benefits for your practice, and then obviously with every episode we have contact information. You guys can reach out to us if you need to. So real quick, let's give a put a bow on this episode with some benefits to the practice.
Say probably the first is that recognizing that your patients today are different than the patients 20 years ago, right? They expect fast, responsive communication with their providers. So providing something like this can do that. It builds trust and loyalty because they're like, hey, I can get a hold of them. I get my answers quickly. And this leads to the number one priority, which is patient satisfaction. The second is really streamlining your patient communication through these digital messaging. It reduces that administrative workload we've talked about earlier. It allows your staff to focus on more important things like the patient hand in front of them rather than trying to think about, oh, messaging we need to get out because we're closed or we're celebrating and everybody's wearing green because it's St. Patrick's Day, right? And
Right.
then you also have fewer disruptive phone calls. We touched on that a little bit before from patient means because your team is really now allowed to dedicate more time and attention to those patients who are either physically in your office, improving that experience, but then also doing and handling the phone calls that should be coming in rather than, what are your hours, what's your address, how do I get there, what's the directions, those kinds of things. And then I think also probably the fourth most important, if you will, is just improving the organization as a whole, right? Creating more of a systemic approach to managing your patient communication and helping your organization organize and run these things a little bit more efficiently because there are times, especially in the busy season, we're coming into where we've got a lot of patient population coming in. It's getting nicer outside. People are outside, which means more things are happening, which means more people have to go to the doctor. And having ways to cut down on these types of things so you can focus on other things is really a big benefit for the practice.
Yeah, and this is a good reminder of using all the tools that we're talking about. Every episode we're talking about a new platform, and today's I'm just kind of thinking about all the different things we can do with ChatGPT and some of the other stuff, Canva, and all the things we've already talked about. And it's we're really building this toolbox of all these different things that you're gonna have at your practice. So what are we talking about next time? What's the next topic?
Our next one's going to be Google Forms. So if you think about what you just said, and we kind of talked about the scaffolding in terms of how we built these episodes, right? ChatGPT helps you design language. Canvas helps you design images, right? And then we moved into now we've talked about communicating from a digital perspective. Now we're talking about the forms. So we've got it. If you've got a link to the patient appointment, if you got a link to new patient reports, you got a link to new patient paperwork, you got a link to your HIPAA signatures, all of those pieces, right? Google Forms can kind of be the next iteration. So it's really like a nice book of business, I would say, these first 5 episodes to really bring together. Here's the great way to kind of level set these administrative components in a way to where the systems that are out there that are free and available using artificial intelligence create these steps to make it smarter and not harder for you and really provide, especially for smaller practices that don't have a lot of bandwidth, a lot of financial means to bring in somebody to brand them. It's a great way for you to decide what do you want to be known for in the space and then get that message out there to your patients.
And it's a lot of fun. These things are a lot of fun to just play around with. So the reminder every week we say, go try what we've been talking about and use all these tools together. And always reach out to us if you have any questions, and we're happy to answer them in future episodes. But Laura Catherine, I think that was another good one. It's time for us to say goodbye, and we'll see everybody next time.
Take care.